Well, good evening, Madam Prime Minister, Madam Ambassador, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. It is a real pleasure for me, representing the EBRD, to be here at Ukraine House in Washington for Innovation Days 3.0. Ukraine and the Ukrainian people are living through one of the most difficult periods in the country's long history, experiencing significant scale of destruction from east to west. But what is striking, and I saw this on a recent visit to Kyiv, is the country's capacity to adapt in the face of such destruction and the acceleration of related innovation over the course of Russia's war of aggression. Adaptation and innovation matter for this conversation that we're having in these 2 days, because Ukraine's recovery will not work if we think of it as a traditional reconstruction program. It will only work if we accept that Ukraine has already changed and will keep changing, and all of us invest accordingly. The language of this conference is exactly right. Victory and recovery will depend on the ability to reinvent, to innovate, and to leapfrog. Not gradually, not cautiously, but deliberately, with pace and at scale. Across defense technology, digital services, logistics, and energy, Ukraine and its people have demonstrated exceptional innovation over the past 4 years. Parts of the war effort and increasingly sectors in the economy are operating under startup-like models, decentralized, fast-moving, problem-solving, and highly adaptable. One reason Ukraine has been able to defend successfully against a much larger aggressor is precisely this ability to innovate quickly and adapt in real time. This should not be considered temporary wartime improvisation, but an economic asset to be nurtured. With this mindset, we can build back better with a more productive, value-added, and globally competitive economy than existed before the war. At the EBRD, our approach is already shaped by this opportunity. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, we've invested close to $11 billion in Ukraine's real economy across the key economic sectors. And our primary focus has been straightforward: to keep the economy functioning during the war. But we also believe we've been helping companies prepare for this innovation-led recovery. We have worked with our local bank partners to deploy risk-sharing facilities at scale to support SMEs' investments in growth and employment. We are deploying our most additional capital through equity investment in funds and directly into companies to support innovation. We've also worked with partners to create new private sector channels of investment by, for example, providing war risk insurance to support the transit of goods. Wartime Ukraine is investable today, but the country's recovery will only be successful by moving beyond individual projects and interventions and building systems that mobilize capital, private sector capital, at scale. So in finishing, I wanted to highlight the 3 things that we think matter most. First, a credible, predictable economic environment. Long-term investors need trust in rules, institutions, and governance, including SOE reform, administrative capacity, and coordinated project preparation. One binding constraint is likely to be the availability of bankable projects ready to absorb investment at speed and scale. This is why we have partnered with the EU Commission, our friends at the EIB, on the Ukraine First project preparation facility. We're working with the authorities to think about ways to scale this to prepare for reconstruction. Second, capital mobilization beyond traditional bank lending. An innovation-led recovery requires more equity risk capital, experienced institutional investors, and other pools of finance. We're working on this with the Ministry of Finance, the National Bank of Ukraine, and others to develop modern capital markets to facilitate long-term investment from global capital providers. And third, people. Whilst Ukraine has demonstrated that innovation can make the economy more productive, reconstruction will still depend on attracting people to return, providing good jobs for veterans and others directly affected by the war, and training people with the skills needed in Ukraine's new economy. Let me conclude by emphasizing again that it's not an option to build back the pre-war economy. However, Ukraine has the opportunity to leapfrog, to build a more innovative, more competitive, and more resilient economy, the economy of the future. At the EBRD, we stand ready to play our role as an investor, policy advisor, and partner with Ukraine, the United States, and other international participants to turn this opportunity into reality. Thank you.